Dear listeners, before we get started, drop a quick hi in the comments and let us know where you're tuning in from. Also, if you have any suggestions for us to make the channel better, please let us know. Now let's start with the story. My name is Jordan. 9 years ago, when my son Joel was 6 and my daughter Elena was 4, my ex-wife Sophie made a decision that would change all of our lives forever. We had been struggling in our marriage for a while, which, to be fair, wasn't entirely her fault. I was working long hours, buried under projects and deadlines, and I know I wasn't the most attentive husband. But I thought we were both trying to hold it together for the sake of our family. The problems really started when Sophie began spending time with a group of friends from her yoga class. They were women who either had already been through divorces or had never been married at all, and they seemed to carry a lot of strong opinions about what they saw as the limitations that marriage and motherhood placed on a woman's freedom and personal growth. One friend in particular, Jasmine, seemed to have the biggest influence on Sophie. Jasmine had left her own family years earlier and was living what she called her authentic life, traveling the country in a converted van. She kept telling Sophie that she was wasting the best years of her life by being tied down to me and the kids. At first, I told myself it was just a phase. I even tried to support Sophie's need for some breathing room. Take a weekend trip, I suggested. Go clear your head with your friends. I'll handle the kids. I hoped that would help, that giving her space would ease the tension and maybe remind her of what we still had. But it didn't help. If anything, it made things worse. The more time she spent away, the more distant she grew, and the more convinced she became that she had made a huge mistake by getting married and having kids so young. Then came the trip to the beach, what I thought was going to be a chance for us to reconnect, to remember why we fell in love in the first place. The first couple of days were fine, but after that, Sophie barely seemed present. She was always on her phone, texting or calling Jasmine and her friends. I tried to talk to her. Sophie, can you please put the phone down? We're supposed to be on vacation as a family, I said one evening, trying to keep my voice calm. She looked at me blankly. I'm just talking to Jasmine, she said, brushing me off. I know, but it feels like you're somewhere else completely. We need this time together, I pleaded. She sighed, frustrated. Jordan, you don't understand. I feel trapped. I need to figure out who I am before it's too late. That night, after we'd put Joel and Elena to bed, she asked me to sit down. I'll never forget the look on her face, this strange mix of exhaustion and determination. Jordan, I can't do this anymore, she began. I can't keep pretending I'm happy. I've made up my mind. I'm leaving. I stared at her, numb. Leaving? What do you mean, leaving? I mean, I'm going to California. Jasmine has a place for me there. I need to figure out who I really am without all of these obligations, she explained, her voice oddly calm. Obligations? I repeated, barely able to process it. Sophie, they're your children. They're not just obligations. Her eyes welled up, but she shook her head. I think it would be better for everyone if I just disappeared. I'm only making everyone unhappy by staying. I couldn't find the words. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. And that was how she left it, convinced she was a source of unhappiness. I was completely devastated. I tried everything I could think of to convince Sophie to stay. We went to marriage counseling. I suggested individual therapy. I even proposed a temporary separation, hoping that maybe time apart would give us clarity. I tried everything I could to keep our family from falling apart. But her mind was made up. Every suggestion I offered, she saw as me trying to control her, as me standing in the way of her living what she called her authentic life. The harder I tried, the more distant she became. The hardest part wasn't even losing her. The hardest part was watching Joel and Elena as she explained, in soft, halting words, that she was going away for a while. This isn't because I don't love you, she told them, crouched down to their level, tears in her eyes. I just need to go find myself. I'll come back to visit as soon as I can. Joel looked up at her, his little brow furrowed in confusion. Did I do something bad, Mommy? Is that why you're leaving? I'll never forget how my heart broke hearing that. No, baby, no, she said, hugging him tight. This isn't about you. You didn't do anything wrong. Elena clung to her, sobbing. Please don't go, Mommy. Please stay with us. But Sophie left. In those first few months, I felt like I was barely holding everything together. I was suddenly a single father with 2 young kids who were struggling to understand why their mother had disappeared. Joel and Elena would ask over and over when Mommy was coming home. And while I tried to comfort them, I was dealing with my own storm of emotions, betrayal, grief, anger. Mornings were a blur of making breakfast, packing lunches, getting the kids to school. Evenings were homework, baths, bedtime stories, all while trying to stay strong for them, when inside I felt like I was falling apart. Sophie did call during that first year, usually late at night. I could tell she'd been drinking, her voice soft, sometimes slurred, full of guilt. How are the kids? She'd ask, her voice cracking. They're getting by, Sophie. But they miss you. You can't keep doing this, calling and making promises you don't keep, I told her one night. I'll visit soon. I swear. I need to get things together, she said. But the visits never happened. Each time she called, Joel and Elena's hopes soared. And each time she disappeared again, they crashed even harder. After a while, I couldn't take it anymore. I changed our number. I asked her not to call. The false hope was worse than no contact at all. About 3 years after she left, I met Lila. It was at a school fundraiser, Elena's teacher. What began as casual conversations about Elena's progress slowly turned into something deeper. Lila was patient. She never pushed. She understood the weight I was carrying, and she never tried to make me or the kids move faster than we were ready for. What I noticed most about her was how she connected with Joel and Elena. She never tried to replace Sophie. She never forced a bond. She was just there, consistent, kind. She'd sit with Elena, helping her with reading assignments. She'd show up at Joel's soccer games, cheering him on from the sidelines. Little by little, she became part of our lives, not in a big dramatic way, but in small, steady steps that earned their trust. After Lila and I had been together for about 2 years, we started talking about adoption. It wasn't my idea, it was hers. I love them, Jordan, and I want to be their parent, no matter what happens between us, she told me one night, as we watched the kids play in the yard. Because Sophie had disappeared completely, no calls, no support, no contact, the adoption process was smoother than I'd expected. Legally, it was abandonment. When the adoption was finalized last year, it was one of the happiest days of our lives. Joel is 15 now, and Elena is 13, and I'm so proud of the incredible teenagers they've become. They've grown strong and kind, and they've formed a deep bond with Lila, who they now call Mom, completely on their own. It was never forced, never even suggested. It just happened naturally because Lila was there, day in and day out, showing up for them. They still remember Sophie, of course, but over time those memories have faded, replaced by the reality of the family they have now. Sophie had become more like a figure from a distant chapter of their lives, not someone they thought about in any real, ongoing way. Then, 3 weeks ago, everything got turned upside down again. Sophie showed up at our front door, out of nowhere. I couldn't believe it when I opened the door and saw her standing there. She looked older, sure, but otherwise much the same. Jordan, she said, her voice catching, I've been thinking about you all so much. I realize now that leaving was the biggest mistake of my life. I want to come back. I was stunned. I just stood there for a second trying to gather my thoughts. Finally, I stepped aside and let her in. Come in. Let's talk, I managed to say. We sat at the kitchen table, and I called Lila at work. Hey, I told her quietly, you should probably come home. Sophie's here. Lila was home within half an hour, calm but understandably tense. She was incredibly gracious, even offering Sophie a cup of coffee, though I could see how hard it was for her. Sophie, meanwhile, spilled out everything. I spent 9 years traveling. She began, voice shaking. Different jobs, different relationships, different cities. I thought I was finding myself, but I wasn't. Nothing ever gave me what I was looking for. And then I realized my happiness was always here. With you. With the kids. I listened, trying to process. She sounded genuinely remorseful, but there was something painfully naive in how she talked, as if she could just pick up where she left off. I'd like to be a part of their lives again, she said. I could help with homework, go to their games, maybe take them on trips. I just want a chance to rebuild our relationship. Lila and I exchanged a glance. Before we could even begin to respond, the front door opened, the kids were home. Joel stopped in his tracks, staring at Sophie sitting on the couch. His face went red, and I could see the anger bubbling up. What are you doing here? He demanded, his voice sharp. Do you think you can just come back and act like nothing happened? Elena didn't even say anything. She stepped behind Lila, clutching her sleeve, refusing to look at Sophie at all. Sophie looked completely broken in that moment, but she tried to pull herself together. I know you're angry. I understand. But I'm here now, and I want to be part of your lives again. We can take it slow. Joel shook his head fiercely. There's nothing you can do. Nothing. You were gone for 9 years. 9 years. We already have a mom, one who cares about us, who didn't leave. Sophie started to cry, but neither Joel nor Elena moved toward her. After a few painful, quiet minutes, Sophie stood up to leave, still wiping tears from her face. After she was gone, Lila and I sat down with Joel and Elena. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice calm. Okay, I said, we need to talk about this. About Sophie coming back. We want to know what you both want us to do. I made it clear to Joel and Elena that Lila and I would support whatever decision they made. I didn't want them to feel any pressure to have a relationship with Sophie if they truly didn't want one. We all sat around the kitchen table, the 4 of us, and I could see how tense the kids still were. Look, I said gently, this is your choice. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. We'll stand by you no matter what. Joel was the first to speak, voice steady but cold. I don't want to see her. I don't want her coming here again. She made her choice, Dad. She left. Elena nodded, close to tears but trying to be strong. I don't want her talking to me at school, either. I have a mom. I don't need her. Okay, I said, taking a breath. We'll make sure she knows. So I called Sophie that evening. She picked up almost immediately. Jordan, she answered, hopeful. Hey, Sophie. I started carefully. I need to talk to you about what the kids want. She was quiet on the other end, waiting. They've told me they don't want contact. I continued. They don't want visits, they don't want calls, and they don't want you coming to their school. They're happy with the family they have now, and I'm going to respect that. There was a long pause, and then her voice cracked. You poisoned them against me, didn't you? You turned them against their own mother. No, I said firmly, I didn't. They're old enough to make up their own minds. I'm not going to force them to have a relationship with you if they don't want it. You walked away, Sophie. For 9 years. You can't just expect to step back in. Her voice grew sharp, defensive. They're my children, Jordan. You can't just cut me out. I have rights. I could go to court, you know. I could get visitation, maybe even partial custody. I stayed calm, even though my heart was pounding. Sophie, I understand you're upset. But after 9 years of no contact, after the adoption, I don't think you have a legal case. She hung up on me, and I just sat there, trying to breathe. After that conversation, I couldn't stop second-guessing myself. Was I doing the right thing? Was I depriving Joel and Elena of something they might regret later? I didn't know, and the doubt was eating at me. So, after listening through all the thoughtful comments from my peers, I decided I needed professional guidance. I scheduled a meeting with a family attorney and also booked a consultation with a therapist who specialized in adoption issues, because I wanted to make sure every move I made was truly in Joel and Elena's best interests, and not just a reaction to my own hurt or Sophie's guilt. The legal consultation was eye-opening and, honestly, a huge relief. The attorney walked me through everything, explaining calmly. Look, Jordan, Sophie's legal rights as a parent were effectively terminated when she abandoned them for that length of time. Lila was able to adopt them without needing Sophie's consent, which tells you where the law stands. In our state, parental rights can be terminated for abandonment when a parent goes more than a year without any contact and fails to provide financial support. Sophie fit both of those criteria perfectly. She'd been completely absent, no calls, no visits, no money, for 9 years. The attorney explained that practically, this meant Sophie had no legal standing to demand visitation or custody. If she wanted to challenge the adoption, she would have to prove she'd been somehow prevented from maintaining contact, which obviously wasn't true, since she had made the choice to leave. I decided it was best to speak directly with Sophie about all of this. Maybe if I laid out the facts plainly, she'd understand and step back before things got worse for everyone. When I called her, she picked up almost instantly. Jordan, did you talk to the kids? Please tell me they'll let me see them. I took a breath, trying to stay calm. Sophie, I need to explain what's actually possible here. Legally, your parental rights were terminated because of abandonment. Lila adopted them lawfully. You can't demand visitation or custody. There was a stunned silence. Then she snapped. You used some legal loophole to steal them from me. That wasn't fair. No, Sophie. I said, steady, it wasn't a loophole. It was the result of you being gone for 9 years. You made choices. There are consequences. She got quiet again, and I could hear her breathing hard. Then she started in, you don't understand. I wasn't thinking straight. I was under so much pressure. My friends, my mental health. I wasn't myself. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting the frustration wash over me. Sophie, I get that you were struggling, but you left. You chose to leave. And the kids aren't interested in undoing 9 years of healing to fit your story about coming back. She started to cry. They're my children. I deserve a chance. I'm different now, Jordan. I can be the mother they need. I sighed. They don't see it that way. They don't want contact. Her voice softened, almost pleading. Okay, if they won't see me in person, is there any way I could write to them? Or maybe call them? I just want to say I'm sorry, even if they never answer back. I thought about it. I'll talk to Lila and the kids, I said carefully. But I'm making it clear right now. Any communication will be completely voluntary. If they want to stop, it stops. No pressure. Okay, she whispered. I understand. When I brought this up with the kids, their reactions were strong, though different from each other. We talked about it for a long time, Lila, the kids, and me, and even had a therapy session to help them process. Elena surprised me by saying, I don't mind if she has my phone number. I might want to talk sometimes. But it doesn't mean I want to see her, Dad. And if it feels bad, I want to be able to block her. Of course, I told her. You're in control of it. If you ever want to stop, just say the word. Joel was crystal clear. No, I don't want her calling me or writing to me. Nothing. She's not my mom. Lila is. I nodded. Okay, Joel. I'll tell her you don't want any contact at all. And she has to respect that. Completely. So yesterday, after a lot of back and forth, I finally gave Sophie Elena's phone number. Joel surprised me by giving his number, too, though he was very clear about where he stood. I'm not promising I'll answer, he told me firmly. And if I change my mind, I'm blocking her. That's completely fine, Joel, I reassured him. You have every right to do that. Before handing over the numbers, I made sure to set clear ground rules with Sophie. Listen, I told her over the phone, if you're going to have contact, you need to respect the kids' boundaries. Once or twice a week at most. No calling during school hours, and absolutely no late-night calls. Sophie's voice trembled with relief. Thank you, Jordan. I promise, I'll respect their boundaries. I won't push them. Even as I hung up, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. Part of me worried this would only feed Sophie's hopes that she could somehow come back into their lives fully, which might just lead to more pain and disappointment for everyone. But I didn't want to shut down Elena's curiosity, either, and I knew I couldn't keep making decisions for them forever. For a few days, it seemed okay. Sophie called Elena twice that first week. Elena picked up both times and was polite enough, talking about school and her hobbies. But afterward, she pulled me aside in the kitchen, looking uncertain. Dad, it just feels weird, she admitted. She talks like she knows me, but she doesn't really know me. I don't know what to say. You don't have to force it, I told her gently. If it feels too hard, you can step back. You're in charge of this. Joel, meanwhile, refused to answer any of Sophie's calls at all. When she tried ringing him several times in one day, he blocked her number without hesitation. I respected that. It was the boundary he'd set, and I was proud of him for standing by it. The real problems started this week. Elena has been swamped with midterm exams and a big presentation that has her totally stressed. She didn't have time, or honestly the emotional energy, for awkward conversations with someone she barely knew. So she stopped picking up Sophie's calls for a few days. Instead of understanding that Elena was busy, a normal thing for a 13-year-old with a lot on her plate, Sophie started spiraling. She called more and more, voicemails piling up one after the other, growing increasingly frantic. Elena, please call me back. Sophie's voice sounded tight with panic on the recordings. I'm worried. Did I say something wrong? Is someone stopping you from talking to me? Elena showed me some of Sophie's voicemails, and I'll be honest, they were deeply concerning. Sophie sounded frantic, almost desperate, talking about how much she missed Elena, how important their conversations were for her mental health, and how this was her only hope for rebuilding their relationship. One message in particular made my stomach twist. Sophie's voice was trembling as she said, Elena, not hearing from you brings back all my feelings of loss and regret. Please, I need to hear from you. When I talked to Elena later that night, she was sitting on her bed, hugging a pillow to her chest, her shoulders tense. Dad, she said, eyes shining with tears, these messages make me feel so guilty. Like I'm doing something wrong. I sat down next to her. Elena, you aren't doing anything wrong. You don't owe Sophie anything. You're allowed to have your own space, okay? She nodded, wiping her eyes. It just feels like talking to her is homework. It's not something I want to do. Then you don't have to. I told her gently. If you need a break, you can take a break. You don't have to answer any calls, and you don't have to feel bad about that. Elena sighed in relief, and we agreed together that she would pause all phone contact to focus on her midterms and have space to think through what she wanted going forward. I really thought that would give everyone a chance to breathe. But instead of giving Elena space, or even calling me to ask what was going on, Sophie made a choice that completely destroyed any shred of trust I'd been holding on to. Yesterday afternoon, my phone rang, and I saw the school counselor's name pop up. My heart sank immediately. Mr. Reynolds. The counselor began, her tone cautious. We had a situation today. An unknown woman came to the front office at lunch, claiming to be Elena's biological mother and demanding to see her. My chest tightened. Sophie, I breathed. The counselor confirmed it. Yes. When we told her she wasn't listed as Elena's legal parent and couldn't see her without proper authorization, she became agitated. She insisted the records were wrong, that she was Elena's real mother. It escalated. She started trying to walk through the halls to find Elena on her own, so we had to involve security and then the police. I closed my eyes, fighting off a wave of rage and disbelief. When I picked Elena up later that day, she was already waiting by the school entrance, arms crossed tightly, looking so small and so upset. She climbed into the car without saying a word, staring out the window. I waited until we pulled away before I spoke. Elena, I began softly. Do you want to talk about what happened? Her voice was small and shaky. Why did she come to school, Dad? Is she going to keep showing up places? Elena was supposed to feel safe at school. That was her space, her routine, her comfort zone. Seeing how shaken she was afterward just broke me. And what really crushed me was when she looked at me in the rearview mirror on the drive home, tears brimming in her eyes, and said, "Dad, I think she came because I didn't answer. Is this my fault?" My heart just shattered. "No, Elena," I said immediately, "this is absolutely not your fault. You don't have to answer anyone's calls, ever. You are not responsible for what an adult does. Do you hear me?" She nodded, but I could see how heavy it still felt on her shoulders. A 13-year-old should never have to feel responsible for an adult's inappropriate, boundary-crossing behavior. As soon as I got home, I stepped into the backyard so the kids wouldn't hear me and called Sophie. My hands were shaking from how furious I was. "Sophie," I began, trying to keep my voice calm, "I need to be extremely clear. What you did today was completely unacceptable. You violated every single boundary we agreed on, and you broke the trust we had cautiously tried to build." She tried to interrupt, her voice defensive and high-pitched. "Jordan, please, I was just worried about Elena. She hadn't answered me in days, and I thought maybe you were stopping her from talking to me. I just wanted to make sure she was okay." I pressed my fingers against my forehead, forcing myself to stay steady. "Sophie, there was no emergency. You told the school there was a family emergency. That was a lie. You tried to get around safety protocols to force a conversation. That's not okay." Her voice cracked, turning emotional and dramatic. "But not being able to talk to my daughter is an emergency to me. Jordan, I didn't mean to cause a scene. Why is everyone making this so hard? All I want is to have a relationship with my children." That was the moment it hit me just how deeply Sophie misunderstood the situation. In her mind, every obstacle was an unfair attack on her rights. She couldn't see that Joel and Elena are their own people with their own feelings, and they have the right to choose how to protect themselves. I took a long breath, my jaw tight. "Sophie, listen carefully. Your behavior today was scary for Elena. It created exactly the kind of drama we've been trying to protect her and Joel from. You've shown me you cannot respect their boundaries, and I cannot allow that." She started crying, her words coming out in gasps. "You're being cruel. You're punishing me for one mistake. You're trying to cut me off from them forever. This isn't about punishment," I said, my voice hardening. "This is about protecting them from someone who clearly can't prioritize their well-being over her own needs. I am telling you now, there will be no more phone contact, no more visits, nothing. And if you come near them again, I will go to court for a restraining order." She sobbed on the other end, but I didn't waver. My kids deserved peace. After I hung up, I went back inside, where Elena was curled up on the couch next to Lila, looking relieved. "It's over, kiddo," I told her softly. "You don't have to worry about answering any more calls, or about her showing up again." She let out a long breath and leaned against Lila, her shoulders finally relaxing. And all I could think was how angry I was at myself for agreeing to any contact in the first place. I should have known better. Probably, deep down, I should have known from the start that someone who abandoned her children for 9 years and then demanded an immediate relationship probably didn't have the emotional stability to respect reasonable boundaries. I'll keep you updated on whether Sophie actually respects this no-contact boundary, or if we end up needing to pursue legal protection. But for now, we're focused on helping Joel and Elena feel safe, secure, and reminding them again and again that Sophie's behavior is not their responsibility. For about a week, after the school fiasco, things were calm. We implemented strict no contact with Sophie and told both kids they didn't need to manage her feelings or expectations anymore. They seemed so relieved, finally able to just be kids again without worrying who might call or show up. Then Friday evening, Elena came to me and Lila, her voice small but steady. "Dad, Lila, can we talk?" We turned to her immediately. Lila gave her a reassuring smile. "Of course, sweetheart. What's on your mind?" Elena took a breath, twisting her fingers in her lap. "I've been thinking about Sophie, about what happened at school." My stomach dropped a little, but I stayed quiet, letting her finish. I know I don't want a relationship with her," Elena continued, eyes wet but determined, "and I know you told her that for me. But it feels wrong. Like, I should say it myself, not just have you do it for me." Lila spoke up gently. "Elena, you don't owe Sophie any explanation. You know that, right?" Elena nodded. "Yeah, but I feel guilty. She got kicked out of school. She's probably confused. And I don't hate her. I just don't want to have, that kind of relationship." I exchanged a glance with Lila, and we both hesitated. "Elena," I said carefully, "I need you to really think about this. If you call her, she might think there's still a chance. She might try to talk you into something you don't want." Elena was ready for that. "I've thought about that, Dad. But I think if I can tell her directly, actually tell her why, then maybe she'll finally let go. Because she'll hear it from me, and it'll be final." Lila sighed softly, then reached out, and smoothed Elena's hair. If that's what you want, we'll help you. We just want you to protect yourself. Yeah. I added, we can be there with you. We'll do it on speaker. And if she crosses a line, we'll hang up. Okay. Elena nodded, relieved, and then pulled a folded piece of paper from her hoodie pocket. I even wrote down what I want to say, she explained, handing it to me. So I don't get confused or let her make me feel bad. Lila looked at her with so much pride, tears in her eyes. That's really brave, Elena. We'll be there the whole time. I promised. Elena smiled a little, clutching the list of points she wanted to make. So Elena wrote down those points on paper so she wouldn't be thrown off track if Sophie became emotional. It was a smart move, one I wish number 13-year-old ever had to make, but she handled it with a maturity that floored me. The call took place Saturday afternoon. Lila and I sat on either side of Elena at the kitchen table, the phone on speaker, Elena's notes clutched in her hands. I squeezed her shoulder before dialing, and she gave me the tiniest nod. Sophie answered right away, her voice wavering. Elena? Is that you? Elena took a deep breath. Yeah, it's me. There was a pause. Oh, sweetheart. Sophie started, but Elena cut in gently, reading from her list. Sophie, I wanted to tell you this myself. I appreciate that you're sorry and that you want to make things right, but I've built a life without you. I have a family, and I don't want that to change. Sophie was silent, listening. Elena kept going, voice steady even though I could see her hands shaking. I feel safe and happy with Dad and Lila. I don't want to lose that. I'm not mad at you anymore, but I don't want a relationship. For a moment, Sophie didn't say anything. Then she spoke, voice soft and resigned. Elena, I hear you. And I'm proud of you. You're such an amazing young woman. I'm glad you found happiness, even if it's not with me. Elena blinked, surprised. Lila and I glanced at each other, holding our breath. Sophie continued, and this was where it started to turn, where her tone shifted to something darker. I know I can't expect you to forgive me. I know I messed up in a way I can never fix. I was hoping, maybe coming back, apologizing, could make up for it somehow. Elena stayed strong. I don't hate you. I forgive you, she said softly. But it's just too late. Sophie's voice cracked. I ruined everything. I don't deserve to be happy after what I did. I see that now. Elena's eyes darted to me, worried, but I gave her a small nod to keep going. I'm sorry. Sophie went on, for everything. For all the pain. I wish I could take it back, but I know I can't. Some damage can't be undone. Some choices can't be taken back. Her words had this final, hopeless ring, like she was saying goodbye to more than just Elena. It made my stomach clench. Elena didn't try to rescue her from it, though. She focused on her own boundaries, exactly like we discussed. I really hope you find a way to be happy, Elena told her, voice small but clear, but we won't be talking again. There was a pause. Then Sophie's voice came through, fragile. Thank you for being brave enough to tell me. I hope you have a wonderful life, Elena. I'm sorry for bringing all this pain back into your life. Goodbye, Sophie, Elena said. Goodbye. The line went dead. Elena set the phone down and leaned back, letting out a huge breath. You okay? I asked. She nodded, though tears slid down her cheeks. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm glad I said it. I feel lighter. Lila reached over to hug her, and Elena melted into her arms. We spent the rest of the weekend just being there for her. She was emotionally drained, but also at peace, finally done carrying around the guilt or confusion about what to say. We really thought, and still believe, that this conversation gave both Elena and Sophie the closure they needed. It had been painfully hard, but in the end, it was the healthiest way to end this chapter. But then this past Tuesday morning, I got a phone call that changed everything and made me question whether we should have handled this situation differently from the very beginning. It was from a hospital social worker in the city where Sophie has been living. She spoke gently, identifying herself, and then said, Mr. Sanders, I'm calling to inform you that Sophie has been admitted to our psychiatric unit following what appears to have been a suicide attempt. My heart nearly stopped. What? A suicide attempt? I blurted out, my voice cracking. The social worker sighed softly. Yes. She took an overdose of prescription medication Monday night. Her landlord found her after she failed to pay her rent, and he called 911. She had left a note apologizing to her family, saying she realized she had lost her children forever and couldn't live with the guilt. I felt like someone had kicked me in the chest. I had to grip the kitchen counter to stay upright. Is she going to be okay? I managed to ask. Physically, she's stable. She's receiving psychiatric care now, the social worker replied. Mr. Sanders, she listed you as her emergency contact from years ago, and the hospital tried to reach family. My mind was reeling. We'd been divorced for 9 years. I hadn't even considered that my contact info might still be on her paperwork. I didn't know. I stammered. Look, we've been divorced for a long time. She abandoned our children 9 years ago, and any contact with her has been extremely destabilizing for them. There was a pause on the other end. Then the social worker spoke carefully. I understand. Can you help us identify any other family who might be able to support her? I took a shaky breath. Her sister. I can give you her sister's contact. Please, reach out to her. Sophie shouldn't be alone, but my kids and I can't be involved in this. That makes sense, she said calmly. We won't involve your children or pressure them to have contact. We will focus on connecting Sophie with the resources she needs. Thank you. I whispered, my head spinning. After I hung up, I told Lila what had happened. She was as shocked as I was. Do you think Elena's call might have pushed her over the edge? Lila asked gently, worry etched into her features. I rubbed my face, completely exhausted. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Maybe hearing the truth was too much. Lila sighed. But Elena had a right to say how she felt. You can't hold Elena responsible for Sophie's choices. I know, I said, but my gut's still twisted with guilt. It just feels like maybe we should have seen the signs or handled things differently. Lila rested her hand on mine. Jordan, you protected your kids. That was the priority. No one can predict what Sophie might do. I nodded, but the guilt didn't fade. Even days later, it's still eating at me. Did I miss a warning? Did I fail to see how fragile Sophie really was? Should I have managed things more carefully, even though my kids deserve the safety and stability we fought so hard to build? The social worker promised to keep Sophie's treatment separate from us and to help connect her to mental health services and family support that didn't involve Elena and Joel. I gave them Sophie's sister's number and asked them again to keep us out of her care plan. It's been several days since that call, and the worry is still there, tangled up with regret and 1,000 questions I can't answer. Did I do the right thing? Did I put Sophie at risk by helping my kids protect their own peace? For now, all I can do is focus on helping Joel and Elena feel secure, reminding them, over and over, that Sophie's pain is not their responsibility, and they are not to blame for her actions. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.